Hello. We are live with Ladies Talk Tech, episode 8. I am Britton Picciolini, filling in for Blagitza Bottigliero, who is literally on a plane right now on her way to Paris. So completely jealous of her, but she's going to have an amazing time. Grateful that she asked me to host while she was out, and I'm very excited to have two lovely ladies with me. I've got Layla Arsan with me, as well as Marianne. I'm not gonna butcher this. Mangubi. I got it. Mangubi. And I'm gonna tweet out. Let's tweet out that we're actually live right now. Done. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Hi, ladies. How are you?
Good, and you? Thanks for having us.
Wonderful. So excited. So you're both connected with Blagitza in various ways. Let me introduce you best I can. So Layla, digital strategist at Zeno Group, also owner of Lotus Marketing Services, avid traveler. I've seen that from your blog, Amazing Travels. On the blog Sunday Morning Soliloquy, which has tons of followers from what I hear. So I love seeing all of your travels and all of the fun things you've been doing on that. And then Marianne Mangubi, digital marketer, founder of Feminomics, which I want to hear what that's all about. Worked at TD Waterhouse, was also on the accounting team at the Obama for America, and also does some television production, just like jack of all trades from what I can gather. So welcome, ladies. So excited to have you both. And for those that don't remember from episode 1, I am an 11-year Googler and just in love with all things tech and can pretty much just geek out with the best of them. So excited to talk with you gals.
Thank you. Same here.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get started. So this week, all the talk was about iOS 7 and the iPhone 5S launch. As I've talked with the ladies prior, I'm not an iOS user, but it seems that both of you are. So I'm really excited that you can give your perspective on iOS 7. If you have any thoughts on the iPhone 5S, where everything's are headed, love to hear what you've got to say.
Layla, I'll let you lead with this one.
Okay. Well, I use both. I'm an Android and an iPhone user. So for me, it's
bilingual. I love that you're bilingual.
Yeah. And I hope to always remain that way. I actually really like having both devices. And the one thing I would say is I was excited for the update, and I have a 4S. I don't have the 5S. So I updated, the day that it came out. And I've been hearing a lot of people who don't like the way the actual look and feel, the design of the the layout and whatnot. I haven't had any problems with it. I think it looks fine. I've heard people say that it looks like Fisher-Price, which I don't really understand. I think it looks fine. But so far, I haven't had like any major impressions. The only thing I will say, and this is probably going to make some Android people happy, it actually reminds me more of an Android operating system than an Apple OS. It just, even the way that it moves and the way that the flow of things, and like the one major hindrance I would say for the iOS than for Android operating systems is with Android, all of your apps share exactly the same way across the board. So if I'm sharing a photo, I can share it to, if I have 50 apps on my phone and they all have some capacity to share, I can share that and it just pops up and it's boom, 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 boom. It's all universal. With Apple, each app can have its own way of sharing things, and I feel like with OS 7, that's changing a little bit more. It's becoming more and more more universal. So to me, it's kind of like, what took you so long? So that's the one thing that
welcome to the party. Okay.
Like you, I've heard some mixed reviews on it. I mean, same thing. I haven't had really much problems. I have the 4S as well. But I've talked to some family members who have iPads and things of that sort, and they've noticed some issues with it, some slower movement, things of that sort. But I think a lot of it does have to do with just with any new launch of something, any new update of software. It does take a while to kind of get everything, all the kinks worked out, all the bugs worked out. Give it some time, and it'll work itself out. I've heard a few people kind of wish to go back, but
Really?
I think that's also, yeah, and I think a lot of it though has more to do with people don't like to make changes. So it's like you get used to one thing,
I've
where
heard
things
some people
are.
say they had to
evaluate.
get rid of a lot on their phone because they wouldn't handle the update unless they got rid of a bunch of, they didn't have the storage for it.
I could see that too. But I think, again, like anything new, it takes some time getting used to it. Software itself also needs to have some time to really be tested live and work out kinks that, as any software will have, and move forward. So don't give up just yet.
I did find an article that was posted on Facebook by a friend, and it was basically how to set your different privacy settings. So it was one thing that I hadn't noticed, or that I wouldn't have thought of on my own, and so that was it was a helpful little graphic that was posted, and it was some of the location, like, and how to turn off, because I know the OS 7 has this where ads. You can have ads targeted to you based on your location, so where to disable that. And then there were a couple of other things that it was posted that they had on there that you should disable. So I went through and I looked.
Would you want to disable ads based on your location?
Here's the thing. I usually keep most of my ads on. I did disable it. I don't even know, like, I guess, like, so would it be, I'm wondering if, because I use Google Chrome on my iPhone, and I wonder, like, so then would that mean that, but I have my location on Google Chrome, so I imagine that those ads would still probably be served up to me based on my location. So I was actually worried that it was going to be ads through, like, apps or things like that.
Right.
I wasn't even sure. I was like, what are these?
I don't, and that's the thing. I don't think anybody really knows because there's no consistency, right? There's no regulation that says, if you've got your ads on for this, it's on for everything, right? And so we don't know if it just means an app. Does it mean for the browser? Does it mean for the entire phone? Like, we have no idea, and I have no idea. But I think, I think about that, and I think I'm kind of excited in some ways to get offers and ads based on my location if they're relevant, right? If I've just done a query for for some sort of I don't know, who knows, a hairdryer, who knows, and I'm actually walking into a Target and they happen to have it and it's on sale, like, tell me, right? But I don't want to get something random that's not relevant to things that I might be already interested in. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. It certainly
It's true.
We have
one of my favorite, like, it's not embarrassing, but it might be for some.
Please, embarrassing is good. Go for embarrassing.
It's one of my favorite ad success stories. So I'm a big Duran Duran fan.
Mm.
But I don't really follow them really anymore.
John. Yeah, I'm with you there, girl. It's all about John.
They were coming to the Chicago Theater, and the only reason I knew about the pre-sale was because of a Facebook ad. And I was like, you know what? I would have never known if it was not for this Facebook ad. And I clicked and I purchased, and it was, And
you were there, and you were very happy. Yes.
I was very happy. So there are times where, and I think the onus goes on to the advertisers. As long as you're not advertising crappy things, you should be fine.
Right. I mean,
Sure.
You and I are in a similar age group. I'm sure Facebook knew roughly, where you were in terms of age. It was like, it's a high likely that she was really into Duran Duran back in the day, and she might be our target audience. So, yeah, props to them for knowing who their audience is, for sure. I would have been right there with you.
Thing. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so let's move on. Topic 2. So Crain's, Chicago business, Crain's came out with Tech 50, and the list was 50 tech mucky mucks. It's just like they're hot people in tech, and only 9 of the 50 were women. And bless Blagitza, for those of you who follow her on Facebook, she keeps everything so close to her vest and never tells us how she feels. But she let loose on this one and just was a little disappointed. There was also a category called wise men, no wise women, just wise men, and so was just a little disappointed. So I want to talk with you ladies a little bit about this. Looking through the list, it seemed like it was more, it was certainly leaning towards entrepreneur side, fine, but the money movers on the entrepreneur side, and a lot about those that hold the money and the funds, venture capitalists, that sort of thing. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on, is this the right way to categorize tech? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, two points. It definitely was entrepreneurial. I would have rather them call it the tech entrepreneurial scene, because I don't think it really represents those who are outside of the entrepreneurial scene. There are a number of movers and shakers within the tech scene itself, within IBM, within Orbitz, within a lot of organizations here in Chicago who are not entrepreneurs, who are not startups, who should have been included for all practical purposes for the most part, because they have a lot of the same backgrounds and whatnot as what you see on that list. In terms of women, I am a big proponent and supporter of women. That is what Feminomics is aim is to highlight women leaders across all industries, not just tech. And there are a number of women leaders within Chicago in the tech space. One of them is a good friend of mine, Kim Lugers, who works in mobile. And she's built up a very solid reputation, who should have been on that list. But because she's not at a startup, she's not included. And it's ironic. So for me, it's kind of a one that I don't give a lot of credence. I was just, like Brigitte, I was disappointed in Crain's. I would have thought that they would do better reporting. I saw a comment she made where, it's the same old, and it's true. And it struck me as, it also ties back to journalism in and of itself. If you're constantly saying the same people and going to the same sources over and over again, it's time to get out of your little closed network and expand, especially if you're a journalist, because your responsibility is to report on the broader community and not just the small enclosed group.
Layla, thoughts?
So I was going through the list again, and I kind of disagree. And here's what I disagree with. I do see some startup people on here, but these aren't startups that are tiny anymore. These are startups that have become very large. So that's one thing. And I'm looking at the very few women that are on there, and they come from larger companies. So, for example, there was a woman on here recently that I just passed, and she's from Dell and Chicago Public Schools and so on and so forth. But there, I'm not all the way through the whole list. But the other thing too that I noticed, and I realize there aren't a lot of women on this list, but a lot of people on this list tend to be a little bit more senior. And they're people who've had a really long career in technology. And the fact of the matter remains that a lot of women haven't been in the tech space for very long. So just the sheer number of women that are physically there are going to be smaller than men. And so for that reason, I mean, what do? Do you try to balance it out? And it's not going to be a balance anyway. So
I would love to see, and I don't know if they're out there because Lord knows I don't know everyone, but I would love to see the startup, the woman that's starting a business that's 30, right? I don't want or 25 for that matter. I don't want to see everyone that's in there as women that have had really, really long careers and have finally, quote unquote, earned a spot, because there's a lot of young people on that list too, and they're certainly not on that list because they've been in the industry a very long time.
That's true. But
the ironic thing is,
Crain's has published other tech lists where it's the more up and coming tech people in Chicago. So and that one is very female heavy.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that I thought was ironic about what you said, Layla, was that you noticed that the women were from bigger companies,
right?
Whereas the guys were not. So that's also a little disconcerting to me in some sense, because it says women who are startups, who are having some success, they're not as valued. I mean, Genevieve Thayers, I would have thought would have been on there, or Talia of Eve, and neither one. I didn't see either one of them. Now I may have missed them in going through the list, but what's her name from Moxie Jean,
And is this a Chicago thing, right? Is this a Chicago thing? Is this a New York or San Francisco thing, or is this just something that we feel like those the journalists and reporters, in Chicago just maybe don't know as many? Do we need to do a better job of promoting the women in the tech world? Like, what do you think?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these men on this list have publicists.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the thing that kind of bugs me sometimes, and it's not this list, but other lists too, I hate it when I see that really cute girl that doesn't really have the best business idea, and or she's just the front for some tech company where she's not really. When you talk to her, she's just a face.
She's not the brains of the operation.
No,
right?
And she's not even. It's just she's more of like a PR. She's there in order to get some news for them.
Right. And
so, I mean, I would like to see someone who is, that is actually in the tech world. It's their idea. It is, and maybe not entirely. Maybe they're a partner or a piece of something, or they're the chief operating officer or the chief technology officer. But I did also see a lot of investors on here, a lot of venture capital, and I really am not sure that venture capital is technology.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I just felt like there were a lot of money movers on the list, which certainly they're important. And for anyone that's looking to get funded or to be hopefully on the tech list someday, it's nice to know those people. But I don't know that I would have put them on this list.
No,
well, I think that's also why for me, just calling it the tech list was not really reflexive of who they represented. With the majority of them being individuals such as venture capitalists and entrepreneurs and whatnot, because like for a broader company, unless you're going through a merger or an acquisition or something of that sort, you're not necessarily out there looking for capital.
Right.
So a VC is not going to be as important to you at that point. You're going to be more concerned about the day-to-day operations and making sure that your customer relations are going well and growing your business naturally. So for that reason, I think it would have been better to call it the tech startup or the tech entrepreneurial world, or something that reflected that this wasn't necessarily a broader tech space.
Or the money team or something.
Yeah. And I think, though, to the other point, Brigitte and I were talking about this earlier this week, the definition of tech. What exactly is tech? When tech is a important component of almost every industry, what is tech now?
Right. Is it people that just do something with digital? Is it the coders? Is it the engineers? Right. What is it exactly? Is it people that are developing apps that happen to be technology you put on your phones or tablets or whatever? I think there's so many things that tech can be. That's one of the challenges, and obviously I think Crain's is a good example of the challenge of deciding what exactly tech is.
I struggle with that daily with what I do for a living, because sometimes I'm like, well, we talk on the internet and therefore that makes us tech, but honestly, even though that's the case, if you don't have, and it might be across the board, if you do not have a solid understanding of technology, you can't even be a social media marketer. You just can't. Like, if you don't have like a solid understanding of how search works and how even digital advertising works, you're not going to benefit your clients. You're just not going to be able to do your job. You might be a great project manager, but that's fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, somebody needs to have the technical background and the knowledge. So, and it's the same thing. I do see like brand managers on here and marketers. And even with VC, like they must have to have some sort of understanding. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know where to give the money.
Right.
So
and I know that there's some, some of the guys like Stuart Larkins. I know, comes from a tech background and a tech company. So, I just happen to know that, but I don't know enough about the others. So I think just on the surface, it's a little bit more challenging. They may all have fantastic tech backgrounds for all we know, but it doesn't feel that way on the surface as much. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So we're going to take it a somber note, unfortunately, but there was a Wired article that came out here within the last week or so that was titled "Public Enemies: Social Media is Fueling Gang Wars in Chicago." So, and I don't know if you ladies have ever seen the Vice magazine show on HBO. Love that show. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's fantastic. It's really, really well done. But they actually did an episode recently on Chirac, if you've heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Fantastic. First time I heard something new today also, Killinois. That was the first time I'd heard that. Makes you real proud to live here. But just wanted to talk a little bit about this because, social media is so prevalent for all of us, I think. But what we're not as exposed to, and when I say we, I'm kind of the general we ladies in tech. I don't think as much about how social media is being used from a gang organization standpoint, but I know it happens. I know it's kind of one of those use your powers for good, not evil sort of thing, but it's out there, right? It's a way to connect. It's a way to communicate for all of us in many different ways. The article was saying there was a specific instance where they said there was two rival rappers, basically, who were also affiliated with two rival gangs. And it was almost like bullying. It felt to me like it was a conversation about bullying, like we see right now with bullies in high school and how everyone's saying, so, please in high school don't, bully one another using social media. It's basically the same thing. If a rival gang was talking smack about another rival gang on Facebook, you just have to basically retaliate because it's not just about saying it to someone's face, it's basically saying it to the entire town or the entire world, and you just can't let that go. And that's how a lot of things are happening, and the police are actually using social media to investigate where this sort of conflict is happening, where they think, they've actually seen where, there will be some sort of conflict online and then there'll be a shooting later that night. So they're really using it in a predictive way, which I think is great, unfortunate, but great that they're doing it. So would love to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, it's just, Chicago's having a really tough time right now, and I think it was just this week when the FBI came out and said that we actually surpassed New York as having the most murders in Chicago last year. There were, I think, 500 in Chicago last year in 2012, and there were only 400 in teens in New York. So yeah, just not a good week for Chicago overall. But would love to hear your thoughts on social media and how it's being used that way.
I'll let you start, Layla.
No, go for it.
I'm glad that the cops are using it to try and put a stop or try and make a dent in it. I was thinking a lot about this because it is something near and dear to my heart, in the fact that I have family members who work for work as paramedics. I have a cousin whose wife is on the police force. So it's something that's, you kind of hear about and you try and not think about, knowing all that goes down. But the fact that that's how they have to do it, and the fact that you might just save one person for one night, it's for me, it's less about the social media and it's more about the breakdown in terms of culture in general. The value of life is so little. And maybe it's just that we're so used to hearing stories like this that you don't see the kind of anger over this. But it's dissettling in a lot of ways.
Right. Layla, what do you think?
I mean, I I definitely can see that point where when you put something out there, it's kind of like, okay, so I love that Tupac Shakur song. when he wrote that song about, I forget what it's called and right off the top of my head, but he completely comes out there and basically tells all of his rivals, all of the East Coast rappers, that he's going to, I think it's shoot 'em up or whatever, and that he's going to kill them all, and that they should all have, their kids should die and their mothers should die, and then he shot. So, there is something when you put something out there and you make it so public, you make it so the other person has to react to it.
Right.
So I do think that exists. And now, Tupac Shakur had to record a song and go into a studio and then publish that song.
Okay.
But now all you have to do is grab your phone when you're mad, and trust me, I have done it many times myself. And you just go, and you hit send.
Yeah.
And it's out there, and it's too late. You can't take it back. It's it's done. Right. But then, even if you delete it, it still gets seen.
Yeah,
People know it's happened, and so it might be something that's happened in a moment. But I could see how. I've never been in a gang, but I could see how like a rival gang member might feel the need to retaliate based on a piece of communication that someone might have sent out without thinking twice about it.
Yeah, one of the things that was interesting to me, too, in the article is they talked about how there was a video, one of the videos that they mentioned that had, some, inflammatory remarks or something, was a video that was sponsored by Pitchfork, because it was this up-and-coming rival rapper. And then there was also mention of one of the rappers that had signed a deal with Interscope, a music record deal. And I thought, I feel like we have a responsibility to ultimately not fund this, right? I feel like we as digital people need to do our homework and say, these are not the sorts of people that I want to give money to and support for their music, which, let's be honest, like I was reading this article and they say things like, I have no idea what some of the slang is, right? It would mean nothing to me. Even if it's a catchy tune, I wouldn't have any idea what they're saying. And, and I read this article and was like, oh, wow, so that 30 means a gun, and I would have no idea. So I feel like we have a responsibility to, to not fund this.
Well, now you're getting into a really gray area, or not a gray area, but you're getting into an area where it's like, okay, so then, where do we draw the line between, like, art and censorship?
Yeah.
So, and that's something that, so maybe you don't want to watch Woody Allen movies anymore because he's married to his daughter. Right. It's just you're going to get into an area if you start going down that route where it's like, well, art and censorship, it's a touchy subject.
Sure.
So I don't know. That opens a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, I would. I won't be the person writing the checks for that, but they're certainly welcome to do their own thing. But when it comes to actually being, sponsored and funded, they can put their stuff on YouTube all day long. Like I feel like they should have a platform, but the payment of it, that's what I have a challenge with that.
Well, I thought it was interesting, too. Like, they were talking about how a lot of them were trying to get out, and they walk a fine line, trying to promote themselves as being tough in order to keep themselves safe, and yet, at the same time, they know doing so and saying certain things and putting certain pictures out there also puts them in the target of the CPD.
Mm-hmm.
And
but they don't care because it's more important to them to make sure that they have a presence, right? That they
stay safe,
right? Yeah.
Well, and that they actually live for another day, and it's like there's got to be. There's something just morally wrong that's how you have to live. That's
right. Well, I think it's been that way, right? I don't think that the behaviors have changed. It's just that it's just a different platform for that.
But it's much louder. I think that what it is, it's much louder. It's always existed. It's just been the message or the information has been contained, and now it's there for all to see. And what I thought was ironic was how many followers they have.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
People who aren't even in their neighborhood or don't even know them. People who are states away.
I had no idea. So the followers, who are you talking about? You're talking about.
So one of the rappers that was, one of the rappers was murdered, effectively, and
Right.
it was suspected that one of the rival rapper actually had something to do with,
Right.
with his rival being killed. The one that's still alive has almost 1 million followers on Twitter.
You're kidding me.
Oh no, that's what I'm
1
saying.
million
Like
followers
this,
on Twitter?
yeah, this
There's
is
a cop car in the back.
yeah. But that's what I'm saying. Like, this is not just, neighborhood stuff. Like, this guy had a $6 million record deal and almost 1 million followers on Twitter, tweets all the time, Instagrams pictures of himself with guns.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm just like, I'm completely blown away. Maybe I'm just showing my age here, but I feel like an old lady. Those kids are just crazy. But that's
well,
that's nuts.
I don't know if you guys spend a lot of time on Instagram, but I have to for work.
Yeah, right.
And, there are a lot of times where I have to find people on Instagram for whatever promotion or campaign that I'm running, or just simply, like, there was our first Instagram campaign that we launched. I wasn't too familiar with the platform, so this is just my craziness, but I spent about 15 hours over the course of a weekend just going through and looking at the profile so I could get a really strong understanding of what this platform is like.
Right.
I don't feel comfortable working in something unless I know it, like, better than anyone.
Sure.
Not to say that I know it better than anyone. But anyway. I was shocked. I'm not kidding you. Like, I was taking down names of teenagers, and I was Googling their names and looking for their parents' addresses.
Oh dear.
I swear to God, because the stuff that these, like, teenagers are putting out there, and a lot of them are, and I don't know, there was also, before this article, not too long ago, it was how the FBI busted a huge, like, drug and arms dealer on Instagram because he would post this stuff and be like, yeah,
Right.
look at my guns.
Right. Yeah.
But I see these, like, 17-year-olds with tons of weed, like, out there, and I'm like, and people are like, oh, what are you doing looking at that? I'm like, I literally was searching popular hashtags. It's not like I was searching,
Sure.
Marijuana. I was, like, searching blog or Insta, best of the day, pick of the day. Like, I was searching those popular hashtags.
I wasn't searching on 420. Right. Right.
But, I mean, and these kids are, like, 16 and 17 years old, and they don't understand the ramifications, that potentially exist for them by posting these things.
Yeah.
And, like, I immediately wrote a Facebook update, and I was like, if you have children over the age of 11, because I would see it as young as 10 and 11,
oh yeah.
I'm begging you, you must take their phones, and you must log into their Instagram accounts, and you must look at what they're posting.
Yeah.
Because you can't, I don't care what child it is, they can't be trusted.
Yeah. I have two sons that are 18 and 20, and so I am. There was the early stages. It was before Instagram. They turned, like, late teens, almost out of their teens when Instagram came around. And there was a time where, we were Facebook friends, and I felt like it was okay, but really a lot hadn't happened. And then Instagram and Vine and Snapchat and all this video stuff. And Snapchat was probably one of the ones that I was just like, okay, so you can take a little video and then it just poof goes away into the ether, and you have no idea.
Goes away.
There's no such thing as go away. My husband and I are both pretty techie, and I've tried to explain to them, there is no such animal as deletion on the internet. There's just there is no such animal. And so, at some point you're just kind of, you try and, be friends with them and monitor what they're doing. And then they turn 18 and you go, okay, you just cross your fingers at this point, and they're in college, and, hopefully they're doing right by something, and they've figured out, permissions and parameters, at least to where, not everybody on the planet can see your stuff. Like, I know you're going to talk to your friends and you're going to post videos and Vines, but for heaven's sakes, just keep it in your circle. Don't be public. It's hard. It is hard. But I do the same thing as you, Layla. I'll talk with some of my clients and we'll just get off topic. And one of the gals I talked to the other day, she was a VP of BizDev, and she said she had a 13-year-old. I said, do you know about Snapchat? And she was like, no. I said, your kid does, and you need to know about Snapchat, like yesterday. So go home and ask them about Snapchat. And I saw her 2 weeks later. She's like, I talked to my kids about Snapchat.
All they have to do is load it on their phone, and then you can see from your contacts who has Snapchat.
Ah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you feel like you have to, you're kind of when you're in this circle, when you are in this kind of swimming in tech space all the time, and you talk to people that have small kids, you just feel like you have this moral obligation to have a PSA with your friends that aren't in the space, because you're just like, okay, here's what you need to know. You need to know X, X, and X. Please do this, and they just look at you with glossed over eyes. I'm like, it's not as bad as you think, but for the love of all that's holy, please understand what your kids are doing, because they're doing it.
I think it's like teenagers, like I think 16 and older, they've been in this world long enough, like, not the world in general, but technology, long enough to understand that there are definitely some ramifications. But I think the younger ones, like 11, 12, like that young.
Right. They don't know anything before
They don't get it,
They can't. I mean, they couldn't possibly understand, like, how serious this is. And, and then it's also even, like, the people who are, I mean, I'm over 40, but people over 40 who don't really understand, this is permanent. It goes out there.
Right.
You post a shirtless selfie, and it's not
forever. Yeah.
Someone is going to send this to your parents, your sister, your brother. It's
or they're going to Google you when you are trying to, get a job. And not that, if we're talking about 12-year-olds, right? They're likely going to try and get a job in the next 10 years. That's not that long in the digital world. No. It's just not. And it's going to be out there, and someone's going to find that shirtless selfie or you with a big bong. Like, just don't do it,
Unless you're really good at burying stuff.
Oh. And maybe that's going to be a college class, right? Like cleaning up your online profile. Maybe that before you hit the real world. Here's how to clean up your your online profile. Like maybe that will be a class.
Well, even I mean, this is not to go off too far off topic, but my mom, she had very little, about her online, and she Googled herself, and she found the price. The first thing that pops up is her home value. It's her.
Goodness, yes, all public record, sure, yeah.
And she went crazy. She's like, "Why is this on here?" And I'm like, "Well, because it's public record and it's public information."
Yeah.
And whereas before you had to go all the way down to the city to get those records, now it's online. And if there's nothing else about you online, then that's going to be the first thing that shows up. So I tried to help her, like, build some sort of a, just to kind of push that down.
Yeah.
But
it's crazy. People don't realize how much was truly public record, and where it used to be, you had to walk down and you had to fill out a form and you had to get it. Not so much anymore. And you're right. It is kind of the older set that Google themselves and freak out and go, what in the hell is all this stuff online for? Everybody knows everything about it. I don't want to know how much. People know how much my gas costs and my taxes. And yes, they do.
Well, prior to reading this article, though, I thought a lot about this, about social media in general, and it's interesting because it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot, as witnessed in this article, that can go wrong as a result of social media, and then at the same time, you see a lot of action being taken now towards. In other cases, like it was just recently, there was a professor who came clean, who was teaching women's studies, and came clean about all that he had done, and he was held accountable for it.
Like what did he do?
What was he doing?
Yeah, what did he do?
He was a professor of women's studies, and he had propositioned a prostitute and a few other things, and he basically had a meltdown on social media, and basically
guilt overcame him and just
came clean on a lot of this stuff. And over the years had been just really horrendous to a number of female leaders within the women's studies space and stuff of that sort. And a lot of people, took it out on them. And then, look what happened recently with TechCrunch and the event that they recently held, and people, holding them accountable on that. So it's great to see social media being used for those cases, it's just frightening to see, in some sense, the other side of it. And I think a lot of people always forget about there's always two sides to everything.
Absolutely. And there's really great things being done to try and educate children on social media and how to not be cyber bullies. And I think, you know, I think the gang issue that was this, Wired article was speaking to, that's such there's a bigger problem than just social media, but social media is definitely fueling it. And I think, the more that can be done to educate people, children, young adults on social media and, how it can be used in a great way versus, in a cyberbullying sort of way, and to, pull up the people in your lives as opposed to knock down people that you don't know. And there needs to be more education on how everything that we do, on the internet, there's a dehumanization side to what we do on the internet, and because there's a separation, you're not saying it to people's faces that we need to be aware of that, and it's going to happen. The social media is being used for all sorts of things around the world, good and bad, and I think it's just an awareness. We need to realize that it's going to be a fact of life, I think, for all of us, but it is something that we need to be more aware of and educate our kids and just make sure that people are aware that it's going on. So. Okay, ladies.
Well, this touches on something.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say this touches on something you said, Layla, about, what kids are posting these days and how they do it, without much afterthought. And it's kind of like, are they, in the case of this article, they were saying that they know that, they could get in trouble with the cops, but they didn't really care because for them it was a sense of showing a tougher side to their rivals, saying, a sense of protection in essence. And I gotta wonder if is it their part of it is yes they don't understand, but is part of it also a product of your environment?
That's always been. That's always been a product of their environment. That's. I mean, if you look at gang culture for generations, there's always like some sort of ritual that one gang member has to go through to prove to the rival gang that they're tougher or stronger or better or whatever than another. So, and not being afraid of the cops is almost always one of the big ones. I have a friend who's a cop on the West Side, and he's like, you don't know how many times I've gotten spit in the face.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just part of what they do.
Okay, so as down as I've taken it, we're about ready to just go straight into the crapper, literally. So we're going to talk about poop. So one of the things that I've been dying to do, and hopefully this is going to work, is show a viral video. So I work in digital advertising, and so I'm always seeing viral videos, and then of course I'm on every piece of media known to man. So I feel like I'm going to get sucked into them. But I'm really excited that neither of you ladies have actually seen this viral video yet. So bear with me. It's actually a couple minutes long, but it's well worth it. So let's watch it together, and then I want you to tell me what you think. Okay?
Okay.
So can you guys see the window?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Let's watch this together.
You would not believe the motherload I just dropped. And that's how I like to keep it, leaving not a trace that I was ever here, let alone that I just birthed a creamy behemoth from my cavernous bowels. Nothing is worse than stinking up the shared toilet at work, or the toilet at a party, or your lover's apartment. Of course, flushing removes the graphic evidence. Maybe 2 or 3 flushes if your skid marks are as tenacious as mine. But what can be done of that subtle scent of a 300-cow dairy farm? Aerosol air fresheners aren't the most effective option, or the healthiest. Trying to mask the stench, giving you a nice blend of ChemLab carnations with just a touch of feces. So, how do you make the world believe your poop doesn't stink? Or in fact that you never poop at all? Poopery. Poopery is the before-you-go toilet spray that has proven to trap those embarrassing odors at the source and save relationships. Simply spritz Poopery in the bowl to create a film on the water's surface that actually traps the odours in their porcelain prison. And when your little astronauts splash down and make contact with the film, they release Poopery's pleasant aromas, so all those around you can smell as a refreshing bouquet of essential oils. Yes, It is a real product. And yes, it really works. We've sold over 4 million bottles. On Amazon alone, there are over 1,000 reviews rating it 4.8 of 5 stars. That's a better Amazon rating than the iPhone 5. If it doesn't completely stop your stench from spreading, send it back for a full refund. Our unconditional stink-free guarantee. If your poo stinks, click here to get your poopery today at poopery.com. So whether you need to pinch a loaf at work, cut a rope at a party, or lay a brick at your boyfriend's, your days of embarrassing smells or prairie dogging it are over. Poopery. Our business is to make it smell like your business never even happened.
Oh, I love that. I love
It's
that so
awesome.
much. And it's real. It is real. My husband and I watched it, and he was like, is that real? And then literally she said, and it's real.
That's exactly what I was saying. I was like, "That's real," and then that's exactly when she said it.
Yeah, it was exactly when he said it. It was timed perfectly. I just loved it. I loved it for so many reasons. I loved it because I think people obviously will buy it. 4 million people have already bought it. But I also love when products and marketers like get the audience, right?
Yeah.
Like, when is the last time you actually sat there and wanted to watch a 2.5-minute commercial? I just love everything about that. And apparently it was the same team that did the Aura Brush commercial. If you're familiar on YouTube, way back in the day when Aura Brush was like a big YouTube sensation. Same team that did that apparently. But just loved everything about it. I'd love, if you guys, would you buy it? Would you buy Poopery?
I actually already did.
I'm done. Amazon Prime. It was like, that was like the quickest 2 clicks ever, right? Yeah, I mean, I just think it's fantastic. And then I think there was another version. There was a man something. And then I haven't looked at it yet. I'm waiting for a time when I really am excited about something. But you can watch bloopers apparently from the entire shoot.
Oh, really?
So you have to believe that the bloopers are amazing. She's sitting in a field of cows. So yeah, apparently there's a ton of bloopers as well. So I just wanted to lighten it up a little, talk about some poop. So, I hope Lageetha's going to love this. She's like, it's all serious. And then it was poop. That's good. It's good. Yeah. So, so as always, at the tail end of Ladies Talk Tech, we talk about apps, technologies, tools, things, gadgets that we are just super excited about. So we'll kick it off to you ladies first if you'd like. Marianne, if you'd like to go, if you have some thoughts on something that is just tickling your fancy these days.
My favorite app as of late is really more the Watch ABC app. The live streaming apps from a lot of the cable companies, in part because I do live in a 1-bedroom. My husband usually has the TV, and my daughter has the bedroom. So for me, I have the mobile phone.
There you are, yes. It's all about where you can get it when you can get it, absolutely.
Exactly. So.
And it works pretty well. You found no big problems. I've definitely watched ABC on my laptop because oftentimes, like there's only so much Bachelorette my husband will take. Yeah. So I just a lot of times I have to watch that on my own time on my laptop.
Yeah.
But yeah, that works great. So I'm assuming probably that works just as well.
I've never had any problem. I mean, the only time I had one was when I was out in Indiana, and it did ask for a cable company. So it was having to switch out into my parents' company that way. But other than that, I've never really had a problem. I will say, though, a funny story tied to it is that my daughter was actually watching, I have a 5-year-old, and she was watching Disney Junior on my phone. And it was breakfast time, and I was trying to get her to hurry up so that we could get to school. And I said to her, Abby, turn off the TV. And our TV box, what you think of the big box, wasn't on. It was my cell phone. And, you've been hearing a lot lately about how TV everywhere and whatnot. And that's when it truly, truly hit me. Like, TV is no longer the big box. It is the quality of the content.
Oh, yeah.
It is the story itself.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Layla, what's up for you?
Well, I have an app problem. So
Is there
Let's
a
hear it, let's
12-step
hear it.
program for that, or
Yeah,
I
I
like
download
that.
apps all the time. So I was trying to think about it. I'm like, God, which app? I don't know. But I think more recently, I really like YouTube Capture,
Ah.
which I was thinking about. I'm like, what have I been using? And I like it because you can also add like a soundtrack to it, especially if it's something like, well, on my vacation when you're on the go and you just want to like upload something.
Mhm.
And it's kind of also a nice answer to Vine and Instagram video because you can actually edit in there and you can add like music sound. You can add a track to it, and you can
Nice.
stabilize it. There's some editing features in there.
Yeah.
So and no one knows about it. When I talk about YouTube Capture, they're like, "What are you
Right.
talking about?"
What's
I'm like,
that?
"Oh, check it out."
Yeah, as a
gonna
as a
check that
Googler,
out.
yeah, I mean, as a Googler, that's probably one of my biggest challenges. Sometimes is that we have so many really cool products, and we just don't market very much. And a lot of it's word of mouth, and like Chrome, you see commercials all the time, which is great, and I love. But then you've got really cool things like YouTube Capture that have tons of utility and great features, and yeah, the only way that I'm gonna know about it is if I catch Ladies Talk Tech.
Right.
It's or someone starts talking about it. That's really it. It's not something you're gonna see a ton of until really it's just word of mouth. Most of the stuff
Right.
is word of mouth.
Well, thanks, Layla, for telling
You're
us
welcome.
about it because
Yes.
after
Right
this, I'm
here.
going to download it and play around with it.
Yeah. Well,
Leila?
and if you are, kind of swimming in the Google ecosystem in terms of Google accounts, usually all of the products talk really nicely together. So, posting
Okay.
things is really easy. So, yeah. I'm no authority,
Nice.
certainly not the spokesperson for Google, but I've been around for 11 years, so I can, say a word or two. So for me, and this is going to sound really bad because it is a Google product, is Chromecast. So Chromecast is actually a little HDMI dongle, and you plug it into your television at home if it has an HDMI port. You plug it in there, it connects to your Wi-Fi, then you can actually play anything from your Chrome browser onto your television, in addition to Netflix videos, YouTube videos. It's fantastic. So it's just been a great way to. I've been using it a lot to watch Zeitgeist. If you guys are familiar with the Google conference Zeitgeist, so the Zeitgeist videos just got posted for the conference that just happened a few weeks ago, and it's kind of Google's version of a TED conference, and I've been watching those, and so I've been able to watch them with my husband. And you just go to you go to the video. There's a little icon in the bottom window of the YouTube window, and click that. It automatically syncs because your computer and the Chromecast are both on the same Wi-Fi network, and it recognizes it. You just click this, and it says cast to the TV. You say yep, and it's there, and it's HD. It's gorgeous, and you talk about kind of the next way to watch television. That's it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think your television is just going to be a place where you display things, whatever that is, right? If it's recorded things, if it's live television, if it's home videos, if it's whatever, I just feel like we're going to have really, really big monitors in our house.
Yeah.
Well,
basically.
I've heard a lot of interesting things about Chromecast as of late. I mean, is it?
Oh, and by the way, it's $35.
Oh, wow, that's really cheap.
Yeah, it's all of $35. Yeah, I forgot. That's kind of the kicker. I totally just buried the headline on that one. But yeah, it is $35 whole.
Nice. Well, is it? Does it already come with apps on it, or how?
No, it's not. It's not anything that that is an interface where it has apps. It's just just a vehicle to connect to your television.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's great. So if you have, if you have a tablet and you have, and your daughter wants to watch something on the TV and you want to make it bigger, or she's got several friends over and, the tablet's kind of small and you can actually, just broadcast something up there really quickly. Yeah, it's just been, I've really loved it. And I think we all have multiple devices in our home that show Netflix videos these days, so that I don't think that's really groundbreaking in any way. But to now have potentially everything that you want to see, that you can farm from your tablet, whether that's a Netflix video, a YouTube video, something on Chrome. Like my husband and I are going through renovations right now. The house is a complete wreck, so we have kind of a punch list in a Google Doc, right? So I can just throw the punch list up on the television in the Google Doc, and he can just spew things. He's like, oh, make sure I put this on there, and so I can just type away, and he can see what I'm typing. So it's kind of like an Uber share screen, you know?
Nice.
But yeah, so I'm absolutely in love with it, and at the price point of $35, really, it's not there wasn't really any question of, gosh, I don't know if I should do this. Yeah, that's a couple coffees, in the week.
I heard they sold out pretty fast too.
They did, yeah. So the first round definitely sold out quickly, and as far as I know, inventory is better now, but we got ours really soon. My husband actually, I think that I'm the biggest tech nerd in the house, but it's really my husband.
Where do you get it from? Do you have to order it from?
You can order it from Amazon. You can order it from the Google Store. But yeah, you could get it online pretty easy. Yeah, the Play Store. I believe it was on the Play Store and Amazon were the two places I knew most people bought it. But yeah, just as long as your television's got an HDMI port in the back, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Huh.
Cool.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
Well, and everybody I know who's gotten one already has raved about it too. I've not yet heard.
It's such an easy interface. It is it's so plug and play, which is one of the things that I loved about it. You literally just pop it in, hit a couple buttons, sync it to your Wi-Fi, and you're good to go. You can download a Chrome extension on your browser, which takes 2 seconds. That's it. Yeah, really easy.
Looks like I will be getting YouTube
capture
and Chromecast.
Right, I know. If nothing else, Blagitza has introduced me to some of the coolest apps and gadgets throughout her episodes so far. I was remembering there's an app that I forget which gal it was, but it was an app for your phone. It was a game like charades, and you put the phone at your forehead, and I can't even remember what it was, so I have to look it up, and it shows the word. You can't see it, and then the other person has to guess it, and when they guess it right, you tap it and move to the next one. It's kind of like this fast charades game. Yeah, it was. I'm like, it was worth it for that, if nothing else. I got a new game that I can, look silly and put my phone on my forehead. It's fantastic. Yeah. Ladies, awesome. It was so great to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining. Blagitza, like I said, is en route to Paris and is just going to have an amazing time. I know next week we've got another guest host, Kedra, I believe, is joining, if I recall correctly. So it'll be fantastic. Super excited to chat with the both of you. It's been delightful. So we'll see everybody next time. Ladies Talk Tech.
Thank you so much
for joining. Thanks. Absolutely. Take care.
Bye-bye.